I got cystic fibrosis. See, I've got cystic fibrosis.
Welcome back to season 5 of Staying Salty. Woo! My name is Chelsea, and if you have no idea what that is, you have stumbled across a lovely YouTube channel about 6 different people who have cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease that affects mostly the lungs, but pretty much everywhere else, because it causes increased mucus. And increased mucus all over your body can do some pretty nasty things that you didn't expect. But this entire channel is about the chronicles of our lives and what we've dealt with and what we go through every day living with cystic fibrosis. To start off season 5, we have decided to talk about how we tell people we have cystic fibrosis. Because there's one thing of having it, but there's the other aspect of having to tell people that you have it and what in the world it is. So, to start things off, when I grew up, I never really looked at cystic fibrosis like this dirty little secret, and neither did my family. We talked about it, it was normal. We didn't really treat it as if I was different or anything like that. So I never tried to hide my cystic fibrosis because I just grew up thinking it was normal. Now, when I got a little bit older, it definitely was a little harder telling people because, as you see in a few weeks, you get some pretty interesting responses from some people who think they know what cystic fibrosis is. But for the most part, I was always very open about my CF. I actually did an 8th grade speech on cystic fibrosis. And I was always very upfront if anyone ever had any questions or anything like that. But if you see my other videos, you know when it comes to me, cystic fibrosis is not in the top 10 things that you need to know about me. I believe that cystic fibrosis is a part of me. It's not this giant, looming, dirty secret on my life. I live life like any other 24-year-old. So when you ask me what are the top 10 things about Chelsea, I'll say, you know, I do yoga, I graduated college, I have a cat, I do all these normal things that everyone else does. And the top 10 thing that you should know about me wouldn't be that I have cystic fibrosis, because I never wanted to be treated like anything different. I never wanted anyone to look at me any differently, because I'm not. I just have something in my life that is a little different, but that doesn't define who I am. Now, there was a point in time in my life where I wasn't as open as I am now, especially in high school and in college. You know, when I started to get really sick, I kind of closed myself off from a lot of people, and that's kind of how I am anyway. I don't let people watch me cry. I don't really expose a lot of myself to people. So when I started getting really sick in college, I kind of closed a lot of the doors off to people. So I became very solitary, and I didn't want to tell people I had cystic fibrosis because I didn't want to explain it. And at that time, I didn't really know how to explain it. I was going through this transitional time of what cystic fibrosis was, and I didn't know how to explain it to myself, let alone other people. And I think that's very normal, and that's a process that many people go through, of being very open and then having to reevaluate what CF means to them. I finally got to the point where I kind of realized that half of how people react to what you tell them is based on the delivery. It's based on how you deliver information and how you react to your own information. So I really took that, and that's how I tell people I have cystic fibrosis, and I think that's huge. The way you tell people substantially affects how they react. For instance, if you tell someone and make it this huge life-altering bomb that you just set on them with all of this baggage, then they're gonna act like that. They're gonna freak out. They're gonna, run away, and it's gonna overwhelm them. But if you simply tell them, let them ask questions at their own pace, then I really think that you can make any relationship or anything like that work with cystic fibrosis based on how you react to it. Because half of the reaction of someone else is based on how you deliver it. I've always delivered my cystic fibrosis kind of nonchalantly, that it's a part of my life. Yeah, it definitely dictates a lot of my life, and yeah, it affects a lot, but I can't change it. I can't do anything about it. And if you're gonna be in my life, here's a part of information about myself, but I'm not gonna sit there and tell them all the statistics, and I'm not gonna say things like, oh, I'm gonna die when I'm X amount of years old. I'm not gonna say things like that because no one knows. And I think even as a mentality for yourself, dwelling on things like that isn't good for you, and it's not good to introduce to other people who you just met. So I think keeping it as lighthearted, even though it is very serious, is a big key to telling other people that you have cystic fibrosis. Also, huge is allowing them time to process. When I told my current boyfriend, you can ask him, but I think I simply just told him, yeah, I have this lung disease. I kind of tried to hide it from him for a little bit just because I didn't want to get into it. And eventually he saw me doing my meds and he's kind of like, well, what is that? And instead of going through this long explanation, I simply said, oh, I have cystic fibrosis. It affects my mucus, and I get sticky mucus in my lungs, so I have to do breathing treatments to make sure it doesn't get a lung infection. And I'm pretty sure that was my simple explanation. It wasn't until a few months later that he actually came to me and started asking more questions, but you need to give people that time. You can't unload 24 years of information onto someone in a dinner or a lunch or a sitting and expect them to be able to comprehend everything. As long as it's taken us to understand CF, it takes other people just as long too. So I think a big thing when people are telling other people that they have cystic fibrosis is to go easy into it. Let them process. Let them have questions. Don't you just spit all this information at them, because that's overwhelming for anyone, no matter what you're talking about. So allow them to have some time to process, think it over, maybe do some research on their own, and then come back and ask questions. Because you really want to make telling someone you have cystic fibrosis a conversation. You don't want to make it just you spitting information at them, because if you're trying to include this person in your life, then they need to be able to understand it the way they best understand it and ask their own questions that helps them understand it the best way they can. I think as a whole, a lot of people are very scared to tell people that they have these skeletons in their closet, as you'd say. But it's not just limited to cystic fibrosis. Everyone out there has something about them that they're scared to tell someone. Everyone has secrets. Everyone has parts of their lives that they don't tell everyone. And that's okay. And I think bridging the gap of trying to tell someone this intimate part about your life and, about your future and who you are, it's very key. And you need to remember that everyone has things like that. You're not alone. Just because you have cystic fibrosis and they don't, they probably have something similar too. Maybe not to the same magnitude, but they have something that maybe they don't tell a lot of people. So I think trying to take a lot of the weight off of this huge conversation that you feel like you need to have with someone, it'll make it a lot easier on yourself when you understand that you're not alone. Everyone has these baggage. Everyone has things in their life and things in their past, that they don't want to tell people, and it's scary to open up. And I think the best way to do that is to just be open, to tell them, to make it a conversation. And that's how I've made all of my friendships, relationships, and really even acquaintances work. Even when I go travel on my cross-country trips and in different countries internationally, I'm always very open with people, but I usually don't just come out and say, hey everyone, my name's Chelsea, I have cystic fibrosis. That's not who I am. That's a part of me, yeah, but that's not who I am. So when I'm doing my medicine and someone says, oh, what's that? Why are you doing that? then that opens the door for a conversation. And that's what it should be. It shouldn't be you unloading this giant, forklift of information onto someone. But I hope you all have enjoyed this video a little bit. It's a little rambly, but I was just so inspired today with my Starbucks. But I really tell everyone that asks that I have cystic fibrosis. Now, the person in the elevator who just commented on how I coughed, I don't tell that person. And it's up to everyone who they want to tell and how they want to tell it. This is just my personal opinion. So I hope maybe some of it helps you. But at the end of the day, everyone has something. Everyone has something that they're scared to tell someone and that they're worried about. So don't feel like you're alone just because yours is cystic fibrosis and theirs might be something else. So make friends, tell people, and I guarantee you they're gonna react a lot better than you think, especially if you're younger. Telling people is the best way to get it off the table, and maybe you're gonna gain friends even more because they're gonna respect how much you go through and how strong you are for having cystic fibrosis and doing everything that you're doing. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will see you through the rest of season 5. So exciting. I am going to get back to go pack for Europe, and you'll see that video at the end of this season. So I will see you all later. Bye.